Hello, this is Joy, and today we're going to be talking about how to make better data-driven presentations, or essentially how to present your data in a way that's simple, effective, and quite easily grasped by your audience. Now, these presentations can be for any kind of audience, whether it's a technical audience, such as team members when you're presenting in a sprint update, or for non-technical audiences, such as when you're presenting to product managers, product owners, or even your business development team. Hello everyone, my name is Joy and welcome to The Joy of Data. Now in this channel we try to cover a broad range of topics around and including data, but the idea is to have a bit of fun and joy with it, hence the name The Joy of Data. Now in this channel you'll get to learn and see a range of new tools, various ways you can leverage the power of your data, and of course how to use that data in your projects and presentations in daily life. Now, if you like the content and would like to stay in the loop, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you get our content as soon as it's published. Thanks so much, and let's get right into it now. Now, I'm sure you've heard the term that the data often speaks for itself. However, how we present the data really determines the difference between whether it's a good public speaker or whether it's a schoolboy standing shyly in the corner just mumbling. So this is what we're designed to tackle today. How do we make sure that the data and the results we've achieved are presented in the best light and in the most effective manner possible? So you don't need to reiterate the data summaries, you don't need to go over and re-explain those graphs. How can the data just speak for itself? Number one, base template plus tailor to your audience. Now often we have a single presentation that we just keep sharing multiple times to different audiences without any changes. How about instead we have a base template with all our content, the structure of the presentation, all the data and results that we need, and then for each different presentation, for each different audience, we customize it. What would that mean? For more technical audiences, dive a little bit deeper. Don't just brush over the results or the data. Dive a little bit deeper into the topic, go through the algorithm and the nitty-gritties because the technical team members are really interested in that. What about the non-technical team members? What about when you make presentations to product owners, product managers, or even business development? Do not go too deep because at some point you're starting to lose them. So the customization for non-technical team members can be to provide punchlines, to provide explanations and summaries instead of diving too deep into technical details. Number two, do not bury the lead. Now I've made this mistake quite often as well, because when we're presenting, we always try to think of, okay, we'll make a nice story, we'll have an introduction, a preface, and then we'll slowly lead up into the final uplifting message that we want to cover. While this is great for most audiences, maybe instead start with the overarching message, the main lead conclusion that you have arrived with all your experiments and all the data and all those results that you have achieved. For lack of a better term, this helps hook your audiences at the very beginning of the presentation and also tells them what they should expect. Finally, the lead needs to be short, crisp, and very clear. The audience should not have any confusion as to what the overarching message that you have arrived with your results is. Number three, explain it to a 5-year-old. Now at this point, you've told the audience exactly what the presentation is about, what the overarching message is, and what they should expect from it. Now you're gingerly going into the technical aspects, doing a bit of a deep dive, helping them understand what the algorithm was, what the different steps were, and you're starting to notice that you're losing them. So let's change that approach. Maybe use an analogy, or use a related example in their lives that would be very similar or parallel to the work that you've done or your project. Okay, here's an example of how you can use analogies or related stories to explain data concepts. Let's talk about data organization. So, as you can see, there's a lot of literature out there that says unorganized data is really inefficient and it's costing people half their time as they struggle with data. So, let's talk about, can we organize your data wardrobe? But instead of thinking about data organization, let's think about a messy wardrobe, right? And what the idea really is to go from here to something like this. And it's very evident and intuitive that the picture on the right is something that everyone would prefer, but realistically, what we really have is something more towards the left. Now, let's talk about it in terms of actual data. So let's say these are your clothes, which means these are all the different tools you're using, and there's data in all these different local scopes, correct? How would organizing your closet look like? Perhaps something like this. What would that look like? What that means is maybe we decided we're going to keep shirts and t-shirts, jackets and some funny shirts, then have another slide which are essentially pants, and then shoes, right? What does that really mean in terms of your data? What it means is, well, you could also do the same for your data where you say, I have some operational data, I have some raw data that comes from products or services, I have some analytics data, and I have, of course, CRM data. So the brilliance about this is that not only do you get the message across really clearly, but also you can extend it. So you can say, well, data organization is very subjective. Based on your organizational needs and how you would like to cluster your data, you can have different levels and different ways for organizing the data inside your company. Number 4, the "oh, I get it" effect. Now, when we show graphs or data summaries, it's very critical that the data emphatically says or states the message that you're trying to get across. Okay, so let's take this graph as an example. Now, imagine you're trying to do a pie chart like they've done to understand the music streaming market share for 2021 by subscriber count. So this is what you would do. As you can see, certain companies enjoy a greater market share. But what's really interesting is instead of just adding text, they've added both the logos and the color scheme. What does this really do? What it really does is it goes the extra mile, and now it's a bit more intuitive because you can see exactly which companies are enjoying a greater market share. Okay, time for round 2, another example. As you can look at this graph, this is also doing market share, but for search engine over 2 time periods, 2010, 2022. Again, I'm going to give you a few seconds, but it's very clear and very obvious. And this is what they're doing really well. What they're not only showing you are the results of their analysis, which is Google is outperforming other search engines like Bing or Yahoo, but they're also doing it in a very clear and evident manner. And this is what we really need to do with our data presentation, is make the data the most emphatic point in our graph. Number 5, pause and check for engagement. Now again, this is quite critical because during the flow of a presentation, we can often forget to sort of pause and check in with the audience. We usually do this by asking or waiting for questions at the end of the presentation, but this is often too late because sometimes when audience members have a question at a certain part of the presentation, they can forget towards the end of it. So key tip, at the end of every section of your presentation, wait and ask the audience if they have questions and if they fully understood. You can even go back to the graphs and the data summary so that they have enough time to capture all the content and then ask questions. Ask questions how they feel about it so far. Do they have questions about the reliability of data, how we arrived at these results, what these graphs really represent, what are the different metrics or KPIs that were shown in these graphs? These questions are relevant as soon as you finish the section and not towards the end of the presentation. What this really ensures is that the audience can now ask questions or voice their doubts during the part of the presentation that they had these doubts with. It also ensures that once you entertain these doubts and you actually clear them out, moving forward, the reader or the audience is in a much better place of mind to understand what they learned before and grasp what you're about to show them. So there you go, folks. As mentioned, these are the 5 tips for better data-driven presentations for both technical as well as non-technical presentations. Now, please feel free to add to your comments. I would love to know what kind of tips that you guys do or different practices that help you in your presentations in daily life. Now, if you like the content, please don't forget to like the video, leave your comments, as well as subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you at the next one.